This is Seahawks Today. I am your host, Will Ortner, and there's a lot of news going around the NFL right now that the Seattle Seahawks, frankly, can take advantage of. Bradley Chubb, he was released by the Miami Dolphins. Is he someone that could come into Seattle and really fit into the scheme that head coach Mike Macdonald has created on the defensive side of the ball? And Maxx Crosby, we all know that he was upset with the Raiders at the end of last year. Now there's rumors swirling that, hey, potentially he could end up being on the trading block. And if he is on the trading block, there's an NFL insider that did go out and say that the Seahawks made sense to be a big-time landing spot for him. Are the Seahawks going to be able to make a big-time move in the 2026 NFL offseason? It does feel like they are poised to do so, whether it's in free agency or if they want to go and take a shot in a big trade during the offseason. Both seem to be on the table. We're going to dive into a couple of different options that the Seahawks have in today's video. But before we do that, go grab your St. Paddy's Day Seahawks Today gear right now. Look at how sweet this t-shirt is. Seattle drinking team. Obviously, you're going to do that responsibly, but it's St. Paddy's Day. Go out and enjoy the day. Have a lot of fun with your friends and your family and wear this sweet t-shirt. I love the design. I've got mine coming in the mail soon. Cannot wait to make sure I get my hands on that. In the comment section and description of today's video, we're going to have that link. It's nice and easy. All you got to do, click it, and it'll take you right where you want to go. $29.99. This deal is sweet, and it's not going to last long, so make sure that you go and take it upon yourself to go grab this gear as soon as you can. Tom Pelissero over the weekend had this tweet where he essentially just let us all know that Bradley Chubb was going to be released by the Miami Dolphins. And when an NFL insider like Tom Pelissero says, hey, Bradley Chubb is going to be released, well, you can all kind of come to the consensus that Bradley Chubb is going to be on the move. What I think is important for the Seattle Seahawks, though, is to look at Bradley Chubb in free agency and realize how they can use him in this defense. When you have a premier edge rusher like Chubb, you have to find a way to get him on the field. And if the price tag is right, I don't see why the Seahawks would not go after him. Look at this last season from Chubb. He ended up having 8.5 sacks, which would put him as one of the top guys on the Seattle Seahawks. 8 TFLs. He was flying around making plays. He's getting to the quarterback, making big-time hits, making big-time plays. And you might say to yourself, well, Bradley Chubb, he is getting a little bit older. How do his last couple of years look? Well, guess what? Aside from the year where he tore his ACL, they look all the same. And what I think is the most important about that torn ACL year is that last year was his first year after coming off that torn ACL, and he was just as good as he had been in the 2 previous years, which that tells me that the torn ACL is not going to affect Bradley Chubb as much as it may affect someone else. What also is important with Bradley Chubb's successful year last year is that it's only going to get better, right? Most people are not at 100% health and ready to go that first year after they tear their ACL. They're at 100% health and ready to go, usually around month 18, 19, 20 after they tear their ACL. So there's a world where Bradley Chubb continues to get better in his NFL career. That's the type of guy that I want to bring into Seattle and have performing at the highest level, especially when you look at the uncertainty right now around the edge position in Seattle. Boye Mafe is a free agent, and he's the type of player that I do think could get a bag in NFL free agency. I was watching his highlight tape the last weekend that we had, and I'll tell you right now, I was very impressed with his get-off and his ability to get after the quarterback still. While he didn't have a ton of sacks like he has in previous years, he was still causing a lot of havoc. When we look at Uchenna Nwosu, well, Uchenna Nwosu is going to cost a pretty penny for the Seahawks, so it might make sense for the Seahawks to cut him and move on from him, or cut him and try and rework his contract to be a more team-friendly deal. Well, if you do move on from Nwosu or you cut Nwosu, it would make sense to, at the very least, look at Bradley Chubb because of the success that he's had. Whether Mafe comes back or not, or Nwosu gets cut or not, it makes sense to look at Bradley Chubb because I don't think you're keeping both Mafe and Nwosu. You're going to be able to keep one or the other. I would love to bring Bradley Chubb into Seattle because he's going to give you that elite pass rushing ability on the edge while also still adding in a very big ability to stop the run. Bradley Chubb is a very good edge rusher in the National Football League despite coming off an ACL tear. So imagine what he would be able to do for this Seahawks squad. I also think that McDonald could get the most out of him. So you're telling me that at edge rusher, the Seahawks can get slightly younger while also at the same time getting the same, if not higher output than what they saw last year? Why would you not sign up for that deal? Bradley Chubb will play for the Seahawks in 2026. Let me know if you agree or disagree with that sentiment down below in the comment section. While there's not a whole lot of smoke around the Seahawks and Bradley Chubb, I do think it is important to note that, of course, there isn't a whole lot of smoke around there. He just got released, and it was a little bit of a surprising move from the Dolphins. So as the offseason rears and continues to grow and grow and grow, I do think that you might see the Seahawks have more links to Chubb. Someone that the Seahawks have had a ton of links to throughout the last couple of years is a guy by the name of Maxx Crosby. Ever heard of him? Down in Las Vegas. And NFL insider Albert Breer believes that the Seahawks are going to strongly pursue Maxx Crosby this offseason. He said so on the Breer report. And I think it's important to kind of go through some of the different things that he said about why the Seahawks would go after Maxx Crosby. The Seahawks continue to try and enhance the team that they had while they were in that window. This is, of course, is Breer talking about the Seahawks back during their run that they want to go towards the Super Bowl. It would be no surprise to see John Schneider make a move. And certainly I think Maxx Crosby would be a good fit in any defense, but in Mike McDonald's defense in particular. Maxx Crosby being added to this Seahawks defense that was already the best in the National Football League last season would instantly make this team and this defense historically good. They would turn into a historically great defense in the National Football League, not just of the likes of like the Legion of Boom, but we'd be talking about them like the Monsters of the Midway, the Steel Curtain, the Purple People Eaters. That's how big of a deal a Maxx Crosby would be to this Seahawks team, because not only does he get after the passer, but he makes big-time stops in the run game. He's the type of guy that makes plays on both sides. Look at his stat line. He would have been an 80 to 90 tackle guy last year if the Raiders don't sit him down. He's over double-digit sacks with still a high level of quarterback hits, and he's making a ton of TFLs. That's the type of edge rusher that Mike McDonald wants in his system because they make a bunch of plays, and Maxx Crosby, his motor never stops. When you look at his last 4 seasons, they are off the charts numbers. And Crosby, he does it on all facets of the game. He gets after the quarterback, he gets after running backs, he forces fumbles, he creates turnovers. Maxx Crosby is the type of player that would take this defense to the next level. Because remember how good the Seahawks were during the Legion of Boom era, and then John Schneider said, hey, you know what? I'm going to go out and grab more players that are going to add into this defense, just like Michael Bennett and Cliff Avril. This is what Crosby could definitely be. Now, you have to remember, well, Will, as good as Crosby has been, he's always been someone who says, I am not leaving Las Vegas. That is where I want to be. And Las Vegas just made their new defensive coordinator, the former D-line coach, for the Raiders. So someone that Crosby is clearly tied in with. It is still important to note that Crosby was upset with the Raiders at the end of the 2025 season because they sat him down. They forced him to sit out when he didn't want to sit out. He's the type of player that never takes plays off, that doesn't miss games. So there might be, and clearly is, at least some sort of a rift between him and Las Vegas. This also, the type of trade that the Seahawks would have to make to go and get Crosby, fits in with what the Seahawks have done in the past and what the Seahawks plan is. John Schneider doesn't want this team to just be good for a little bit. He wants this team to be good for the long run. And when you can add in a guy like Maxx Crosby to a team that already won a Super Bowl, you can talk about a historic, a dynasty type of run. Albert Breer on the Breer report had this to say, where he kind of reiterated some of the things that I might have already mentioned earlier on in this video. The Seahawks, would they make sense? The Seahawks, if you remember, you go back to the Legion of Boom era when they were in that championship window, they were very aggressive about going and getting veterans. They went and got Percy Harvin. Hey, this year, they went and got Rashid Shaheed. They went and got Cliff Avril. They went and got Michael Bennett, right? Those are key components to those to that championship team and those two teams that went to multiple Super Bowls. John Schneider is not afraid to go in and add a big name free agent if he thinks they can take that team over the top. So to me, make it happen, John. You've already reached out multiple years now to the Raiders about Maxx Crosby. That's how we know the Geno Smith deal ended up getting done. So there's a clear dialogue there. And to me, the Seahawks don't need to hold on to draft picks about winning in the future. The time is now. So make the payments. Go out and pay for a guy like Maxx Crosby. Go out and offer a first and a second round draft pick to be able to go pick up Crosby, because if he stays healthy, he helps put this team in a championship window, and he helps add some extra youth, although not a ton of it, to this Seahawks defense. Because if there's any spot where the Seahawks have been old or could be labeled as old, is on that defensive line. There's a reason why people were worried that Leonard Williams might retire. There was a reason why people were worried that a DeMarcus Lawrence might retire after winning the Super Bowl. This is a way to kind of alleviate that, get both of those guys to come back, because both of them have said that they are going to. But more importantly, it's building upon a strength. So go and make the trade, John. Go and take advantage of the Raiders' missteps and bring in Maxx Crosby to Seattle. Should the Seahawks trade for Maxx Crosby? Let me know your opinion down below in the comment section, yes or no, because it is going to require a very big offer to get Crosby to Seattle. The Raiders are not just going to trade him away. It is also important to note, the Seahawks, they have plenty of cap space to do this. Make sure that you hit that sub button. We are growing rapidly. We're trying to get to 85,000 subscribers on the channel. You can help us do that by just coming in and hitting that sub button. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video, and I can't wait to see you guys next time.